So when I read the premise for this movie, I thought it was just going to be quite a silly movie, very dry comedy. Turns out this movie has a lot of sophisticated layers to it, and it just knocked every one of them out the park. Very quickly, if you enjoy the cut of my jib, consider hitting subscribe. Not only does it keep you up to date with the latest movies I'm covering here to maybe add to your watch list, but you're just going to make my day as well. But that being said, let's get on with this one. The Banshees of Inisherin. Probably did say that wrong and I can only apologise. So like I said, this movie I thought was going to be quite a dry comedy based on the premise of it. But the first thing you need to know is who we've got here. This was beautifully directed and written by McDonagh, and the two main leads we've got Colin Farrell and Gleeson. It's the in Bruges trio back together. So the plot to this movie and why I thought it was just going to be quite a simple tale. Colin Farrell is Pádraic and Gleeson is Colm. And what happens immediately out the gate in this movie, so they didn't waste any time with it. This is set in a very small, very local town in Ireland, and these two are best of friends. Now we don't get to see the past friendship that they've had, it's just kind of told to us throughout the movie, but basically one day, Colm just does not want to be friends with Pádraic anymore.
But you didn't say anything to me. You didn't do anything to me.
Well, that's what I was thinking, like.
I just don't like you no more.
He's not done anything, he's not said anything in the wrong way, but Colm has just realised that he's had enough of this friendship going nowhere and just kind of cuts him off immediately. It does sound pretty cold-hearted, I will be honest, and it kind of is. However, you can kind of see both angles in this movie. Now, Colm is the older of this two. He's clearly the more thoughtful one, he's very artistic, he's a great musician.
This I wrote.
People come from the mainland over just to be taught by him. He's very good. And he's well read, he's very literate, so of course he's got the kind of bigger ambitions of the two, even as he's aging on. And in the flip of this, with Pádraic, he is simpler, probably the best way to put this. He's not an idiot by any means, but he is just a very simple man. So with his own simplicity, Colm is done with the dull conversations that go nowhere. You know, they can sit and talk for hours at the pub and it might be a good night on its own, but it leads him no further forward in his life.
The other night, 2 hours you spent talking to me about the things you found in your little donkey shite that day. 2 hours, Pádraic. I timed it.
Well, it wasn't me little donkey's shite, was it? It was me pony's shite, which shows how much you were listening.
You know, it's very clear that they have a routine because the movie opens on Pádraic going to get Colm to go to the pub that day. It's 2 o'clock after all. So it was very set in stone what they do day in, day out without ever getting anywhere. Colm doesn't necessarily have any new illnesses, new ailments that's leading him down this path of just not wanting to die without leaving behind a legacy. But he's just very conscious of the fact that he's going to get to that point. So when Colm just cuts off Pádraic, of course it leaves Pádraic completely clueless. He has no idea where to go, who to turn to, or what is going on. It's obvious that all of the locals in the town know exactly what's happened because they're two of the best friends together and now suddenly they're just not talking. So word gets around very quickly, considering it looks like there's maybe about a few dozen people in this town. You know, one of the main people for news and updates is the bartender.
What are you doing?
Me?
Yes, you.
Nothing. Just drinking.
Not waiting?
Not waiting.
Well, he is waiting, Siobhan. He's waiting for Condon.
I amn't waiting.
He just told me he was waiting.
Telltale.
I'm not going to lie, if there's ever a Hello Neighbour movie, he is going to be perfect at playing the lead. You can see it, can't you? With Pádraic's simplicity as well, he checks off the calendar after he's been cut off and realises it's April 1st. And in his head, he cannot comprehend that Colm would just cut him off, so chalks it up to nothing more than an April Fool's joke.
I only just saw what month we changed to yesterday. More fool me. So will I be calling for you on my way to the pub later?
It's not the case. It's really sad, actually. Colm just gets sick of Pádraic's persistence to be friends. One, Pádraic can't quite understand what's happened or why, so he kind of does want answers, which is more than fair. And two, it's this new lifestyle for him. You know, his whole routine has just been shattered in one day because Colm made a decision to not be friends anymore. You know, as this movie continues and Colm is just getting more pissed off with him, he makes it very clear that he does not want to be around him. I'm not going to go into too many of the kind of consequences and what happens as he persists, but let's just say it's pretty serious that he does not want to be friends anymore. There is an air of niceness still, where he doesn't want to be friends with him and necessarily waste his day with him, but there are moments as well where it's quite clear that he still feels for the guy. He helps him in very few situations, not enough to lead into a friendship once again, but just enough that he's got his back. He doesn't want to see him struggling. Okay, so with that story out the way, it was one of the most clever comedies I have ever seen. If you've seen much of the Imbru's trio, as I called them earlier, you'll understand that they can pull off dry comedy so well. And it is perfect here, especially because it is just this local Irish town as well. What I love in comedies like this is that nobody is trying to fight for the spotlight. You know, there's one character, Dominic, who is kind of arguably the comic relief.
What's the matter with you?
There's nothing the matter with me, for God's sake.
Look at this I found. A stick with a hook. What would you use it for, I wonder? To hook things or a length of a stick away?
But that being said, it's not like they just leave the comedy to him. He's just kind of like the village idiot. There's a lot more to him than that, trust me. His story isn't just a B plot, it feeds into the main story. It's also very impactful as well. So he's not just written off as a comic relief character. Again, beautiful writing there. But yeah, the humour is very dry. Absolutely coarse dry, this humour.
I was doing terrible.
All right, I was doing so well.
Yeah, well, it can't all be you, can it?
Yes, it can.
There's two of us in this.
No, there isn't.
It takes two to tango.
I don't want to tango.
Well, you danced with your dog.
And I personally am so here for it. I love it, every moment of it. These 2 points are going to contradict each other. I'm very aware of that. But if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I mean. The comedy is very quick paced. You know, the dialogue, it's very quick, it's very chatty. But also, the movie has a slowness to it, a steadiness to it. Not the pacing. The pacing was perfect throughout this entire flick. However, just in the way it's delivered, it's got a kind of calmness throughout the movie as well. It's balanced a lot, and this movie just demands your respect. Every second of it. So now that I've covered off the kind of comedy side of it, this movie also, just one more layer for you, it is set during the tail end of the Irish Civil War, and that plays as a backdrop to the movie, literally and thematically. They can see the gunfire happening from their village across the water, so it is literally a backdrop. In the way the story unfolds and the themes of it, they are very much apparent. When the movie wraps up and you see where all the characters are, where people are at in their lives, you realise that this has been a very good, very creative metaphor for the Irish Civil War as well. And it being in a very small little town in Ireland, they shot on set, so you can bet every single frame here is just beautiful. It is just gorgeous. I'm really ranting about this movie, aren't I? But as we go on and as we continue, Pádraic is still trying to understand what he can do to fix himself to become friends with Colm again, because that's what he needs in his life. Whereas we also see that Colm has now got new friends. Pádraic sees them as the new replacements. That creates tension. And Pádraic also lives with his sister Siobhan, so she gets caught in the middle of it as well, where she's still friends with Colm, and Colm is by no means disrespectful to Siobhan.
What do you need from him, Colin? To end all this?
Silence, Siobhan. Just silence.
He still gets on with her, but he just makes it clear that he doesn't want her to be talking for him, if that makes sense. You know, his only issue was that his life was at a standstill by spending all the time with Pádraic. It wasn't necessarily with Pádraic himself. I would love to go into more, but the only reason I'm holding myself back is because I feel like you and everyone should watch this. So look, with everything I've just said, and let's be honest, ranted about, where would I be putting this? If you've not guessed already, 100% without a shadow of a doubt, change your plans for the Banshees of Inisherin. I hope I nailed it that time. The performances here were absolutely stellar. They were flawless, which it's hard to see that. Now, you've got obviously the kind of secondary characters. They were all fantastic, but the main two were following more so. You know, Pádraic and Colm, Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They were actually flawless. The movie looks beautiful. It wastes zero time getting into the plot of it. And also it's paced really well throughout. It doesn't bounce between comedy and then kind of dark humour or dark themes. No, it mixes the two here. And this is something you see done well very rarely, because it takes an incredibly good writer to do. And let's be honest, it was in fantastic hands here. With everything I've just said and ranted about, have you seen the Banshees of Inisherin? If you have, let me know what you thought down below. And if you haven't, go and watch it and then come back and let me know what you thought of it, because you're going to go watch it, let's be honest. And if you haven't yet, consider hitting subscribe, just so we can keep you up to date with these latest movies I've got coming out to add to your watch list. But with all that said, as always, thank you so much for watching.